Welcome. This is week 1, day 3 of the 1 Million Women to Tech Summer of Code. Ilona Budapesti here from Oxford, UK. Let's get started. Welcome everybody. Good morning. Great to see all of you. Rebecca, TWHO37, Consuela, Darlis Galax, Pia Sevon, Eva Scholten, Irans, LJ Irans. Wonderful you managed to all come in here. And good night to all of you. Let's get started. First of all, we would like to have a love affair between letters and numbers. There is much to cover, so I encourage you to lean back and enjoy. Hi Archana, hi Alex. Okay, can you please all hear and see clearly? If yes, give a little B for thumbs up. And let's dive into the code. So something that you need to know is that each string is actually an ordered list of letters. So we can access the first letter, for example, by using something called a bracket notation. So you'll see I'm using a bracket after a string. The number in the bracket is called an index. This is a piece of vocabulary. It's the index. And it starts at 0 and grows. This is how the computer thinks. So the first element actually is index 0. These indices are always integers. And what's really cool is you can also use negative numbers to count down from the end. So let's try this. This is very powerful because now we can use numbers in calculations. And it's time to learn something about how to use your command line to have interactive Python. So I am going to open a new tab here in my command line. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, and you can see I'm here in my home directory. It doesn't really matter where you're running it from because whatever you run in the interpreter actually will disappear and will be lost. So normally when you're running something from the file, you need to be in the directory the file is, but now it doesn't matter. And all you do is type Python. And what you should get is you should see the version and how it's running. Now I have a little bit more complicated setup because I'm not running Python directly. I'm running Python within Anaconda. And actually maybe it's time to upgrade. So I'll look into that. But what is the same for you is you should get the 3 greater than signs, which actually means the computer is listening to you. This is useful when you're experimenting, but be careful because your code is not saved anywhere. However, when you're testing behavior and method, this is a quick way because you don't have to time print all the time. It will convert it for you. So let's try a few things. So you don't have to type print 3 times 5, even though it will. You can just say 3 times 5. Do you see that? And it's really nice because it saves you from typing. So let's have a look. I need a volunteer who would like me to use their name as the string access. So I need somebody who wants who is willing to use their name as today's coding experiment. Please know that this will be available on YouTube, so you need to be comfortable. We have used the name of several members previously who would like to go for me, Rebecca. Okay, Rebecca affiliate, you start. Awesome. So let's have Rebecca. Well done. Affiliate. So this is now a variable. It only exists in the Python interpreter. If I close it, I would lose it. And if I type name, it's equivalent to print.name. I'm giving it to you as well here in code so that you can go home and then try it, so no worries. I use Sea Lion, but we will use Rebecca. Affiliate. Excellent. So let's have a look. I could actually do something like this. What do you think is the first letter, index 0 is first, of Rebecca Affiliate's name? So if I type this, I'm trying to access the index 0 element of this string? Well, hopefully it should be capital R. Awesome. And if we do number 1, it should be E. That's really super cool because suddenly you can count to the end. Now, wouldn't it be nice to know what the so that we don't have to count exactly how many these, how long this string is? Well, there is something called a length, so we can just calculate the length. Oh, it's 15. This is really nice because now I can go back and say, okay, let's look at the 15th index. Oops, and here you got your first issue. Because it has 15 items, actually the last index is number 14. Let's have a look, let's test it. And that is filié, the last one. If you go out of that, it will tell you, hey, index error, you screwed up indexing. That happens a lot. I mean, of course it never happens, right? So the index is out of range. What's nice, however, is you can combine these with variables. So if I don't want to type this all out, I can just say, give me the length of the name variable. I get 15. And then I can access name 14 and get the same result. So instead of typing it all out, I can refer to it as a variable. Let's take this one further. What if I is a variable of a number and I want I to equal 0? Then I can do something like accessing the I index element of name, which will be the 0th or the first element. And now we have superpowers. So let's try this. What if we want to write out every single letter in Rebecca's name? We'll use a for loop, and this is where I think it's good to go back here into the file. We will just say the name will be equal to Rebecca, and now I'm going to have a loop where I goes from 0 to 6, and I'm going to print out 0, name 1, name 2, name 3, name 4, name 6. Let's do this in our actual code here. So I save this as love.py, and let's see if that works. And if we started, we have Rebecca F. Oh, that's very interesting. There seems to be a little strangeness here. Let's try just to do that. Actually, we need to go till 15. I tell you why, because range cuts off the last one. But let's have a look so that you can see the interaction. So that worked. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And a space. Oh, I see. Sorry, I left the negative numbers here in the end. Good. Okay, that's why this this is showing up. Lovely. So if we do it from 0 to 14, let me just rerun this because I forgot to uncomment something. You see Rebecca filié, we're missing the R, and that is because the range function actually goes from the first element to the one before the last one. It's not inclusive in the end. Oops, sorry. So if we want to do, and there is a reason for this, and I'll show you why. So this is how we get the whole range. And now we have Rebecca filié. This is supremely useful. For example, if you're working on a hackathon challenge and you are modeling your continent as a string, now you can step through every single letter in your string and check what it is. Is it a 0? Is it a 1? Is it an X? Is it an O? And now you have a way to loop, we call loop through it. Okay. Now, length is very helpful because you could actually just write length name here. And then you don't have to know what it is. Depending on how long name is, it will work. So right now, Rebecca filié, it works. But if I make something like is awesome, now suddenly it's much longer. And I still get it. Or maybe I could just shorten it, right? And I could be like maybe somebody forgot to type their whole name. So now it's just one long. So this is really lovely because you are not dependent anymore on a fixed number. I'm actually showing that to you here. So let's stay with that. And there's one more thing I want to show you. What if you want something that is a bit more intelligent? For example, we want to type and show only every second letter. Okay, so we can actually do that by having an if clause. And this combines numbers and letters, and this is why I call it a love affair between letters and numbers, because now you have superpowers suddenly. If I, so the index, is an even number, if modulus 2 is equal to 0, please note that there are two equal signs here. It's very important because in an if statement you are asking a question, hey, is this equal 0 or is it not equal 0? Let's hide this a little bit so that I can explain to you. If you have a single 0, you won't get any results because 2, you cannot assign something to 2. So let's print I. And what we should get here is we first write out Rebecca's name. That's actually a distraction, so let's not do that. And you get all the even numbers, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So you tested your code, is awesome. I know now that if I is even, then I'm going to print something. But it's actually not I that we want to print, right? We want to print the even numbered elements of Rebecca's name. So I can use bracket notation to look up the ith element in Rebecca's name. And now it will be much more interesting because now I know, oh, Rebecca Fillier is spelled this way. It's RBCAFLIR. You're not seeing my bottom line of the console, dang it. Okay, good. Let's just lift it here. The bottom line of the console is not really actually important because the only thing that's happening, by the way, don't worry, is that I'm saying Python love.py. So it was just running the actual event. And you can't see, now that's bigger problem that you can't see the code. That is much bigger problem. I think what I can do there is now this should help. How does that? I think that's an important one. Okay. The editor is obscured as well. Okay, we're learning. So let's do that one more time. First, I just wanted to test I wanted to go from 0 to the end of Rebecca's name, and I wanted to print out I if it was even. How do I know if it's even? Well, I check it. If it's divided by 2, if I modulo 2 is 0, which means if I divide it by 2, yay, great, thank you, good. We'll learn. So if it's divided by 2 and the result is 0, then we will print out I. Let's run it. Cool, and now you can see it as well. Okay, then we get 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and we know, wow, awesome. Okay, we got our even numbers, but it's actually not the even numbers we want, especially in a continent counter. You want the actual element of that string. And so now we can use our new superpower, the love affair between letters and numbers, and we can look up the ith element of name of the variable. And if I rerun it, we should see the 0th, the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, 8th, 10, 12, and 14th letters in Rebecca's name. And here we go, R, B, C, A, capital F, L, I, R. So this is exactly what you could use in your continent counter to loop through your string, let's say a line, and then see which one is a 0, which one is a 1, or which one is a little land, which one is water. Great, Aram says little b. Also, you could do the odd numbers. Let's have a look. So if you divide by 2 and you get 1, Let's run it. 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. Then you should get the, that's very interesting. Rebecca's name is EEC space ILE. Okay. Now this is quite helpful, but in the end what we really want is some sort of output. And the way to do it is to have another variable. This is very simple but meaningful. Let's have an empty string here called result. If I print result, it will be empty. Result. It should be an empty string. There shouldn't be anything, right? So result is empty, and then we have all the odd numbers. I, for some reason, like even numbers better. Sorry, let's do even numbers. Okay, and then in the end, what we really want is we want to have a result where you add all the evens together, for example. And what you can do is every time that you find a letter that has an index that's even, you can take result, add this new letter to it, and then reassign to result. So each time when this is running, you assign. And we can show that. Print, okay, result just changed to, and we'll have a look at result. Okay. So if we do this, oops, great. Result was 0. And then we found R. And then we added R to result. So now the result changed to empty plus R. Yay. Now we found little b. We added that to result. Therefore, result changed to RB. Each time we find a letter, name I, we add it to result and reassign it to result. So you overwrite result. Be careful because you do lose it. And in the end, you can see that result just changed to RBCAFLIR. This is for you to use when you are doing your continent counter. Your result might not be an empty string. You will probably want a number because in the end, the question asks you how big the continent is. And if you add 1 each time you find a piece of land to your counter, then in the end, your result will be successful. And let's do a final print, and we can say, sorry, the final result for all even indexed letters in name is end result. Drum roll, please. Thank you. I would like to thank the Academy. Wow. Okay, so let's now run our program. And it starts with result 0. It finds every even numbered letter in Rebecca's name and gives us the final result, RBCA, capital FLIR. And then it prints it out. The final result for all, can you see it? Even index letters in name is RBCA FLIR. Drum roll, please. Thank you. I would like to thank the Academy. A little bow. Can we get some thumbs up here? Yes, you definitely need to rewatch it, and I encourage you that you download my code here and break it apart. Like change everything, you know, change these length name to number. Try it to 100. You will get an error because actually the name is too short, so you will get an index error. It will say it's out of range, but that's fine. Oops. Change the modulus, change this one, change the print, change whatever you would like so that you get a feel for how things are going. Lovely. Use a loop. 2 continents. Yeah, of course, if you're advanced enough, you can use 2 continents. This is, I would say, if you have a continent that's very, very minimalistic. I mean, here, what's the smallest case in a continent that you could do? Well, if X is land and little o is water, then the smallest case would be x. If you only have one piece of tile and it's x, then the count should be, well, then the result should be, the count should equal, will be 1. It's no meaning if it's water only, because then you're not standing on it. So actually in this case, if you have a world that's yeah, if your world looks like a single tile that's water, then the count is 0, but it's not meaningful because you don't really have something. So I would just throw an error here, or I would say, hey, your count is 0. Cool. And then you can go on, and maybe your world is a bit longer. Yeah, so maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 3. Maybe it has a bit of water, in the beginning, and has some water at the end. Yeah? And maybe then you get to the new line and you have more land. So it's up to you. But I think I would be happy just with one continent. Cool. This is the love affair between numbers and letters. One more thing that you might want to try is printing negative numbers. So let's go back just to play here inside our interpreter. Actually, let's have a look again. Name. What's nice is you can also do negative integer access, which will count from the end. So -1 is the last element, -2 is 2 from the end, and so on. Be careful again, because you can run out of range. Because this is 15 long, let's have a look at -14, 15, and 16. So -14 is 14th from the end. -15 should be the first one. Excellent. If I now go to -16, you're going to get an index error, because the string index is out of range. There is not a -16th element. This is really important, because sometimes in your code you'll write something and it will break the whole code, several thousand lines, and then you'll realize, oops, I just ran out of range. Cool. Can I get thumbs up for this one so far? Exactly, Paula Bernal, you're a complete beginner. Send your one continent solution. You know, like, actually, this is cheeky, but to be honest with you, these 2 lines, line 27 and 28, is a solution to the question. Like, this is the minimal, well, not quite, because I asked you for an 11 by 11. Okay, I asked you for an 11 by 11 continent, but actually, if you had a 1 by 1 continent, then if world equals x, then count equals 1 is a solution. Cool. Wonderful. Let's move on. Let's mix things up a little bit. We've looked at a few kinds of object, integers, floats, and strings, and we made variables point to them. Now it's time for them to play together. If we want a program to print 25, the following doesn't work, because you can't add numbers and strings together, right? So if you have the number 2 and the string 5, then you can't actually add these two together. Let's try it. So var1 equals 2, var2 equals 5. Can you see it? Yep. Then var1 plus var2, it doesn't like it. It says unsupported types for plus. You can't add an int in a string. Awesome. Part of the problem is that the computer doesn't really know if what you were trying to get was the number 7 by adding 2 plus 5 as numbers, or if you wanted to get 2, 5 or 25 by adding strings 2 and 5. We'll learn how to do both. Before we can add these together, we need some way of getting the string version of 1 and the integer version of var2, and Python actually has these conversions built in. So how do we convert? To get the string version of an object, we can use the string method. Yeah? Let's have a look. So let's convert let's convert the number 2 to a string, and voila, because it has these little single quotes, now you know it's a string. We can also do this to the variable itself, so I can just say make the variable 1 into a string. And now it's very happy, and now actually we can add them together. var1 and var2. Oh, it was very happy. So this is computer. Unfortunately, it cannot read your mind. In JavaScript, we will see it operates differently. JavaScript will implicitly guess what you're trying to do and convert it for you. In some ways, this is very convenient because your program doesn't break if you forget to convert. However, it can cause problems because under the hood, there are some complex rules on what gets converted into what. And so if you add a number and an object and a function together, you will actually get something out of it. And you will be like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? So we'll see in week 5 that JavaScript does these conversions quite differently. So this is something that is language specific and you need to know per language. Okay. It's also, there are some standards, so there are very strongly typed languages such as C++ or C, where you have to be extremely explicit about your types. Python and Ruby are quite strict, as you can tell. It doesn't allow you to add strings and integers. And then JavaScript is very loosely typed. This is the name, this is a piece of vocabulary. It's a loosely typed language. And you can actually add, it's totally legal to add the number 2 and the string 5. When we do string variable 1, programmers will say that we call the string method on variable 1. Okay? Similarly, integer, int, gives you the integer version of a string literal, and float gives you the float version. So let's have a look at that. If we do int and take a string, voila, that worked. We can do the same with the variable. And so the opposite of the addition would be variable 1 is a number plus variable 2 is a number is 7. What's really important, and please notice this, that even though we got the string conversion of var1 by calling string, var1 still points at 2. It doesn't change without explicit change. So even though I have called string var1, if I call var1, it has not changed unless I reassign it. Okay, now it's time to bite the bullet and look at the official documentation of Python. Let's have a look. It's always good to look up these things in the browser. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. For example, here is the, I just pulled it up for you. Here is the string object. If you go to the top, you will see here that you can change the language and you can change the version. These are the major available versions in Python, and some, unfortunately, little functions and built-in things change. So this is the newest one, 3.4.7, and if we go to the string function, it doesn't like. I don't know why I didn't do that. Let's try again. I got cookied in or something. Oh, here. Okay. String can take an object. It returns a string version of an object. If an object is not provided, it returns an empty string. Otherwise, the behavior is as such. And then it gives you lots of string methods. To be honest, unfortunately, I find that the Python documentation is not a real joy to read, but it gives you a kind of strange satisfaction that only documentation can give. So have a look around. I also gave you the integer and the float, and here are some things that you can try on your own. Also come up with your own examples and really try to break it. It's one of the best ways to learn is to try to break the code in the sense of getting strange inputs and strange outputs. It will give you some surprises, and also some of it won't do anything, which is what you expect. Let's look one more take at print. There is something strange about this favorite method of ours. If we write print 20 versus print string 20 versus print the string 20, then we get the same results. Why is that? Well, because actually behind the scene, Python will convert everything and call the string function on whatever you put inside print. So when I say print something, let's say 20, what actually happens under the hood is that the string function gets called on whatever is in there, and that's what's output. This might be interesting for you. In Ruby, the word print is actually, or the method print is actually called puts. And in the puts, the S stands for string, because puts really means to put a string. This might not be exciting very now, but Python has many kinds of objects, and you will even learn how to make your own. So it's nice to know what happens if you try to print something really weird, such as the picture of your grandmother or a music file or something completely different from letters. It'll always be converted to a string first. And so it's good to know that whenever you call print on an object, it will be converted to strings. In the meantime, we have some other methods so that we can start writing programs. Yeah, I know, I'm going full speed because I want you to be able to do the continent counter by tomorrow if possible. And so for that, we need to cover a lot of ground today. Good job, Louise. Let's learn something new. Let's learn the input method. It's very similar to print, but it's the opposite. It actually, if you can guess, it will accept something from you. So if you type in input and you say, Louise, may I use your name on here? I want to say Louise Temlet is coding along full speed. Is that all right? Oops. Then it's going to spit it out back to me. It took an input and now it's printing it out. It's really the equivalent of doing print input, because it will, well, if you're writing in your code, you need to do this in order to get it out. So you will see something like this, and I can say Jamie Henson is super cool. So try this on your own. Try writing a few more things here, and whatever you put in the input, you'll get it back. What's nice about that is you can store these. So for example, if you want to know someone's pet's names, you could say input, and you can give a little prompt. You can say, what is your pet's name? Okay, and who has a pet? Who could give me a good pet name? I'm still in need of a pet name. I used to look after a miniature pinscher. Solly. Excellent, thank you. Solly. So now we have Solly. This is good, but why don't we save it into an actual variable? Okay, and we can do something like this. Pet equals input. What's your pet's name? Okay. Oh, what does it not like? Sorry. Ah, okay. It has the right. I should use double. Good. Okay, so it will be Sally. And now if I type pet, we have Sally. So that's really nice because now I can do things like print pet. And you can interact with your user. Smokey, Rex, Loki. Wonderful. So everybody, now you can try these. And here are your homeworks. Full name greeting. Write a program that asks for a person's first name, then middle, and then last. Finally, it should greet the person using their full name. Okay? And here's a second one. Write the bigger, better favorite number. Write a program that asks for a person's favorite number. Have your program add 1 to this number, and then suggest the result as a bigger and better favorite number. Do be tactful about it. Okay? Can we get some thumbs up here? This way you can add interactivity to your programs. I'm going to skip over this, but I will push it up for you. Mind your variables. Some questions were about how to name your variables. So the truth is, often when you get stuck, it's because you forgot some implicit conversion. And so it's a very good idea to name your variables in a way that you understand what's in it. Age as a string, or age as a number, and so on. Oh, great. Kasia has lots of BBBs. Wonderful. So if you are very interested specifically about Python, what are good ways, or what is this is not a computer convention, but more a human convention. There is a very nice website here that tries to summarize sort of a basic style guide for Python. And it has many little details, but I gave you the link specifically to the naming conventions of variables and function and variable names. It just says it should be lowercase with words separated by underscore as necessary to improve readability, and it's the same for functions. Okay. Mixed case is allowed in context where it's already the prevailing style. You will see that in JavaScript, people prefer to use camel case. So, for example, my pet is more the JavaScript flavor. My pet is more Python flavor. These are human conventions, and it's quite important when you start a new job to just have a quick read, either if your company has a style guide or your project has a style guide, and follow that just for readability and interoperability so you can talk with each other. Cool. Let me just see your questions. All inputs are strings. Yes, very good question. Actually, if you look up the input docs on Python, there is an implicit string conversion. Yes. So for example, if you're asking for age, so let's say is input age, you will have a little trouble. Let's say 16. I'm 16 every year. You see, you get a string, and that's a little problem because what you actually wanted is int age, right? That's what you wanted. So you have to do an explicit conversion. You overwrite int with int age, and now you have the number. Very good question. Awesome. TWHO37. You start to see how we're combining here different things that you have already learned, different methods. Fancy string methods. String methods can be quite fancy. I only showed you a little bit. I showed you the length method because that's the only thing you need. But you can do things like reverse. You can do it, turn it into uppercase, lowercase, capitalize it. Actually, it is all in the string reference that we looked at. So I think if we go back here under string, you say find, format map, index, is decimal, is alpha. For example, is alpha is quite useful if you want to know that all of the inputs are letters and there's no numbers or punctuation on it. Is digit, is numeric. I think if you just know length and is alpha, that is probably enough for right now. So try playing with these two and see how you get. There's also things like is lower. And also you can actually turn things lowercase. You can adjust it left, right, you can replace, you can find. So more can be found, again at the same reference as before in the documentation. Cool. Here are a few things for you to try. we want to write the angry boss and the table of contents. So the angry boss it rudely asks you what you want, and whatever you answer, it tells it back to you and then fires you. So it's for example, if you want a raise, it will repeat it back to you and then say you're fired. The table of contents is something that you can practice if you wish to learn alignments. This is really optional. The concept is that you get the chapters aligned to the left, and then, for example, the page numbers, you could practice aligning it to the right of the screen, so that you get left align and right align practice. Cool. Higher math is optional, and we did a little bit. We looked over the power operator, which you can also use power, so it's base and power. You have also done the modulus, which is a division. So for example, 365 by 7, it will give you what the remainder is. And you can even do things like absolute, or like the absolute value of numbers. Try also to research. Here is something to try for you. Research how to generate a random number with Python. This could be really helpful because once your continent counter is complete and you can actually travel through a static board, let's say you have a static board that looks like you have a continent like this. What if you want to generate a random continent and you need to generate a random number that rounds either to 0 or 1, and then each of these is randomly generated. So try that. This is more advanced, so actually I'm going to make this these going to be optional, completely optional from here on. If you have time and are looking, then this is an exercise. Cool. The math object is quite nice because you can do so much with it. So let me see, where is it? The Python math object is a whole library. It's called the Python Standard Library of Mathematical Functions, and you can see all the available topics. So power and logarithmic number theory, power and logarithmic functions, trigonometry, angular conversion, hyperbolic functions, and so on. Factorials, powers, exponentials, logarithms, sine, cosine, tangent, degrees, radians, hyperboles, and so on. So this is for you if you are inclined to do mathsy stuff. Have a read at the math object. Oops. And enjoy. And now here we come to the very important, very important flow control. So I wanted to run through the math very quickly and then spend a little more time in experimenting with flow control. What does flow control actually mean? Well, you don't always want to execute every line of code. For example, earlier on, we did the if divisible by 2, then print it out, otherwise don't. This is already a kind of branching or flow control. But let's have a look at some basics first. One of the things is comparison. So I need a volunteer to give me two numbers that are not equal to each other. Your mind is blown. I know. Sorry. I'm just running through the advanced maths to let you know where you can find it. You don't really need the advanced math for the continent counter. You just need to be able to add two numbers. So please don't worry. Good, Louise. I need two numbers, please, that are not equal to each other and that are integers. I heart replay. 3 and 7. Got it. 3 and 7. So let's compare 3 and 7. Is 3 bigger than 7? True or false? It's false. Okay. Is 3 smaller than 7? It's true. So now you see a type that we haven't spoken about, and this is called a Boolean, or true or false. There's only these two options, and the comparison operator greater than, smaller than, greater than equal, smaller than equal, all allow you. Fantastic. So let's try more. So 47, is it greater than 3? PS7, yes. 11, smaller, greater than 17? False. Is 23 greater than 5? True. So now we see that we're starting to branch, because what's interesting is that now we can do something like that. If, let's say, A equals 23, B equals 5, and I can say if A is greater than B, then print you win. Else print you lose. Sorry. And A is greater than B, so now we can win. So the power is really, really huge, because this is how you can calculate your continents. This is how you can make decisions based on a user input. Now suddenly you moved away from static HTML on the web, and you're able to interact and create change. The same code can now do something different depending on what inputs you give it. The outputs will be different. Okay, so this is supreme, and now let's override B, so that we will lose. I'm so sorry. Let's make B 100. Let's just see what A and B is now. Okay, so now A equals B will be false. And so if I write, if again, now we will unfortunately lose. One thing that you saw earlier is that the equal signs are quite important. Sometimes you want to know whether A equals or not B. If you just use one equal sign, it will be a problem, because you will overwrite A, and that's not what you want. What you want to know is whether it's a true or false statement. And this is why you need the double equal sign. Now, if you make a mistake like this and you overwrite A with B, now both of them are the same. If I now ask you, is A equal B? Now you will get true, because you overwrote them. It's a little bit tricky to compare things, because actually you are allowed to compare strings, and it's quite complicated on how these work, but in short, it's a dictionary type lookup. So if cat comes before dog in the dictionary, it will be true, otherwise it will be false. And this is a little bit cool, because, for example, 2 is smaller than 10, but the number 2 and the 10, this comes up a lot actually. If you think about the summer of code, I'm a little worried about the week 1 and week 10 being confused. You see, the letter 2 is actually comes after letter 1 in the dictionary. And so what I'm a little bit worried is if we have like week 1 and week 10, let's see. Oh, it worked. Okay, then I'll have to be too worried. I think this is what we're trying to do though. so that there is no confusion. Cool. The last thing that we need to look at is the if with equal signs. So if A is equal B, then do something, then print they are, let's escape it, they are equal, else print they are not equal. And they are equal at the moment. This is what you need mostly if you want to count your continent. You need to check if your tile is land. If the tile is land, you want to increase your count. And you don't need to have else is optional, so you don't have to have else result doesn't change, so you can just skip it. This is it from me for today. This was very high speed. I'm going to push this up day 3 for you and add more content tomorrow. I just wanted to pre-schedule a little bit on the flow control today. Give yourselves a round of applause, everybody. Well done. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for helping me navigate the screen and the sharing. And I'll see you in a few minutes if you're a Golden VIP member for the live Q&A. Let's keep the Q&A code focused and let's enjoy. Well done. Round of applause for all of you who are here, and especially if you're in the middle of the night or at some ungodly hour. Wow, give yourself a tap on the shoulder. You are amazing. All of you are amazing. Bye. This was Ilona Budapesti from 1 Million Women to Tech with week 1, day 3. Intro to Python.